and welcome to another episode of the NYH podcast. And on today's episode, we've got the main man himself, Mr. Dave Finnegan. I always go to call you Dave Elwood, and I'm like, his name's not Dave Elwood.
Most people do. A lot of my suppliers still call me Dave Elwood, and it's what people know me as. I don't mind. I'm well used to it by now.
I suppose the best ask, where does the name come from?
It just comes from a random thing. When I started up in business, started obviously trading for myself about 7.5 years ago. After leaving the job that I was in by my choice, I wasn't happy there, wasn't being paid right, so I moved on. And yeah, I started up working my way around, trying to build a customer base as just a sole trader carpenter. And I tried to go and get credit to buy a kitchen for a customer and got refused credit because I was a new start-up business. And I thought, shit, what do I do? And what do I do? So I sat chatting with my dad, and my dad's quite an astute businessman. He's worked in London all his life in different aspects, not in any just sort of the way of the trade. Yeah. But he said to me, I've got a registered limited company that's been running for a few years. Do you want to start trading under that name? Yeah, basically, his company that he registered was Elwood Enterprises.
Right, okay.
And the backstory of it is his favourite actor is James Stewart.
Right.
And his favourite character from his favourite Jimmy Stewart film was a guy called Elwood P. Dowd.
Right.
And he always wanted to call our family dog Elwood. Never had a dog. Always had bitches.
Yeah.
So when he registered his company, that's what he went with, and it just stuck. I started trading under it. Then we transferred the company across into my ownership, and I've stuck with it ever since. It became one of those things. It started building, and I started building my own brand, and yeah, I just sort of rolled with it, and I quite like the fact that it's different and quite unique, and it's not the standard, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased, and it's just how it's gone. I've rebranded it with the logo a bit and messed about with it, but yeah, I've stuck with the name, so
it's working for you.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
especially, people only have to look at the past 18 months for you, and how much it's grown massive for you.
Yeah, we've changed a lot in that time.
What do you think was the biggest change for you that gave you that step up or level up?
Whatever? I think it was a combination of two things. First of all, the whirlwind, last 12-18 months that the industry's had, the way it's gone. You used to have to try and... I used to be pretty successful and be happy at the fact that I was booking myself out 4 to 6 weeks ahead all the time, never having to chase the diary, never wondering what next week's job was. But then we've got to the stage now where people are ringing you up and you're saying, listen, you're looking 6 months plus before I could even put a date to it, and everyone's still booking, despite the fact that costs are going through the roof with fuel and materials, and there's that much work out there now. Between that and the growth of my social media is the way that, why the reason that my business has took the strides forward that it has.
Yeah, I think people are willing to wait for quality, and I think when you mention social media, people can see what you're up to every single day, and they can know that Dave is more than just a local builder, so to speak. It's a whole rounded thing, and people are like, well, I'm willing to wait for that because I can see what he's up to every single day, and I can see where he is with the progress of it.
I have that effect. That definitely comes across to me a lot of the time from the customers. They'll be messaging me on Instagram. It's the main platform I use, and they'll be saying, when can you come out and look at this? We've seen your work, we want you to come and do it. And you almost know you've got the job before you get there, because what you're basically doing is putting out a 24/7 CV for your work. Yeah. You're showing people what you do all day, every day. I'm on there with the stories, I'm posting throughout the day. I'm showing people everything that's going great. I show people when there's been a cock up and something needs sorting, or something's not gone quite wrong and not quite right, and we've had to think our way through it and work our way through it. And sort of people develop this personal trust for you as a person or as a company or as a group of lads. And I think, it's like I say, it's almost like an on-running CV that you're putting out for people permanently, and it's definitely, it gives you that way to project what you are as a business. Yeah. With sort of no hiding things, with no, being really transparent. And like you said, when I looked at a job last week, and their exact words were, we're not worried about time, we want the right builder. Yeah. And they're looking to have this job done in sort of March, April next year. Yeah. And they're trying to line it up now and trying to book us in now because they realise the way that things are, and they're that determined to have us do it.
Yeah.
That they're sort of thinking 12 months ahead, which I think's pretty incredible.
Yeah, because I think as well, on the flip side of that, because people from the outside industry are looking in and seeing how it's booming, and there probably is a lot of people that are coming into the industry thinking, well, I can lay bricks, or I can do a bit of joinery, or I can fit a window, and in reality they really can't, and it gets a bad rap, I think, the building industry sometimes, and I think a lot of people put us down because they think, oh, uneducated, like we've just been talking to with Tony here, that people, oh, he's only a builder, oh, he's only this, he's only that, where in reality we've got to be so many different things. You've got to be the businessman, you've got to be the boss, you've got to be the person who comes up and turns up every day and does the trade, whatever the trade is, and then you've got to make sure that you're thinking, well, at the moment, months ahead of yourself, and it's a massive juggling game. You can be spinning loads of different plates, and that can bring its own problems, being too busy. It's famine or feast sometimes, this industry.
100%. And on top of all those things, you've also got, you're the salesman, you're the accountant, you're the bookkeeper, you're the quote taker, you're the admin, and all these. And even when you've got people in place to do it, I mean, I employ my wife now to do a lot of the paperwork that I don't want to do or haven't got time to do. So she does the invoicing, pays the lads, deals with the accountant, the backwards forwards, the VAT, all that side of things. But I still probably do, on an average week, 15 plus hours a week paperwork. Yeah. And like when I put that into a week where I'm already working on the tools 6 days, you try and work out how the hell you're supposed to fit those 15 hours in, because you're still always thinking ahead and you're always planning. And the amount, the amount of research you do for materials nowadays, I mean, compared to before, you used to ring up your main supplier, get a price, get them to drop it, and that was it. Yeah. But now, because the variation in cost between certain suppliers is so different, and because certain suppliers are charging a fortune for one thing but they're cheaper on another, I mean, I spend so much time shopping around trying to make sure I get the best deal, because it's the make or break on your profit margins. Yeah. Which was obviously the big struggle I had last year, was making the profit margins work for the rapidly increasing material costs.
Yeah. And I think with expansion comes more responsibility, becomes more pressure, becomes more weighing you down and things like that. Have you noticed over the past 18 months where it's accelerated that you think, shit, this is getting a bit much now?
A couple of times seriously last year. The first time was May last year. So we were on a big commercial sort of landscaping job that went absolutely tits up because of the weather. I mean, I don't know if you remember the end of April and the whole of May, it rained every day for 40 days. It was like biblical. Yeah. And some days, and we were trying to waterproof a balcony that was going to have this patio laid over it. And we got to the stage where it was nearly waterproof. There was one little section that wasn't. And it rained every day for 40 days. And I just couldn't catch a break. Yeah. Just couldn't catch a break to get that done. We tried tarping it, covering the area and everything. It just wasn't possible the way it was built and with the access that we had to get that site secure. And it was just an absolute nightmare. And the pressure of that, it was the first time I'd ever really considered my own mental health. Because I was sitting there, in bed, having sleepless nights, worrying about this job, worrying about what the repercussions of it were going to be. And it was the time I thought to myself, that's it, I might as well not bother, I might as well jack it in. And I never thought I'd ever get to that stage. I count myself to be a really positive person. I always try and look for the best in people. I always try and find the positive in every situation. And the pressure that built for me, knowing that it wasn't just me there, that's at the time I probably had 4 or 5 guys working for me at the time. So I'm there thinking, what if this doesn't go right and I have to end up folding, and I'm going to put all these guys out of work? These, some of these guys are friends for years and things like that, who have come with me on this journey as we've expanded and gone with me. And it was the first time I ever stopped and thought about mental health. And I thought to myself, geez, I need to sort of work this out and try and get myself back on track here. And I think it was a strange sort of epiphany that I had. And I sat there and I thought, right, there's got to be a way around it. There's got to be a way to sort it. People are just going to have to deal with the way that we're going to have to do it, and that's what we did. took a sort of step back from it, and I took a view of what's the best way of getting from where we are now to where we need to be. I put a plan in place, and as best I could, and then I worked from that and went from there.
Yeah, it's sometimes. I think the big thing with mental health is people don't realise it's how important it is till it smacks you in the face. And I was one of those people. I definitely didn't realise that it was that important to look after yourself, because if you need to turn up, like you say, every single day for them guys, because it's not only your mortgage you pay, your rent, it's theirs, and you're putting food on their table and things like that, and it's huge pressure. And then you've got to try and stay focused and get whatever task is done. But when you've got that eating away at you, and you're not sleeping properly, you're not eating properly, it all becomes a vicious circle. And then I used to try and grab time back, in the sense that I'll stay a little bit extra at work, because I think if I stay here, I'm doing a little bit more, and I'm helping myself out tomorrow. When in reality, you turn up the next day and you think, why have I done that? Did I really do that? And it's hard to switch off and stop and take that downtime to look after your mental health and reset and your body and your physical health, because it is a very full-on job that we do, and it can get too much and consume you, and one thing leads to another, and a bad day turns to a bad week, turns to a bad month, and before you know it, you've gone down a black hole of shit.
Yeah, and us men, we're never great at saying we need help.
Yeah,
that sort of that male pride and the that sort of the thing that's sort of chiseled into you through society, that we'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll tough it out. Don't worry, I'll sort it. And then it just keeps eating away at you. I mean, like last year, the other time that I only struggled a little bit last year with this was I had a little bout of COVID within my team towards the back end of the year, and it was when jobs were overrunning. I was at other deadlines for other jobs that were crucial, because I had a couple moving into a renovation, moving up from London. Moving date was set; we weren't going to be moved. Half my team went down with COVID. One got it, another got it, another got it, and all of a sudden, then I got half the amount of guys working. The deadline was tight anyway. The jobs were piling up, and I didn't know what to do, because you also feel that you get so much shit from customers sometimes.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
They don't realise what they do to you. They really don't. And I don't think it happens in any other job or any other industry where you get the sort of pressure. Like, in what other job would you get a message at 10:30 at night? Do you know what I mean? That people think they can contact you about work at that sort of time.
Yeah.
But you do, and like people, you'll be sat on holiday on a beach, and you get a message through with someone saying, "When's this going to be done?"
Yeah.
Not now, obviously, and text me at 10:30 at night ain't going to get you any better. All it's going to do is give me something else to think about while I'm trying to get off to sleep.
Yeah, and then you can't get to sleep.
Exactly.
You start worrying about that.
People are quite savage when it comes to the way that they treat the builder.
Yeah.
Especially in the sort of domestic market that I work in, because I think they see it, and they see it as well with your social medias and this, that and the other, that they think you're approachable all the time.
Yeah.
Where in retrospect we're not. We work from sort of 8 till when we finish, and you shouldn't feel that you can give someone shit, when they're at home trying to enjoy an evening with their family or whatever. And I think it's quite odd that there's no barrier at all. As much as, builders get a bad rep for the way they do things, or the perception that people have of certain builders, man, I think that if you ask most builders what's their biggest soul bugbear, 100% it would be customers.
Yeah.
And the way that they are treated by customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I built a house for somebody in North Manchester, in Mosley, and sat over a table, and the guy owed me £36,000. So the last couple of payments for a job. I was young, I was naive, I didn't protect myself properly.
Let it build up more than it should have.
Yeah.
We've all done it.
And he turned around to me and looked me dead in the eye and went, "It's just business, Rob." I went, "Just business? You're ruining me. You're absolutely ruining me." And he thought, because I was just a young bricklayer, I can do that to you. And really, you can't. And like I said, there is no switch off. You wouldn't go and buy, say you're buying a new van or a new car, you wouldn't be ringing the dealer at 10 o'clock at night saying, "Is my van going to turn up in the morning? Have you finished doing the service on my van?" You wouldn't do it. And it does, I think the attitude of people needs to change that. These people have lives outside work. And they need to respect that. And sometimes we can be, I definitely can. I will reply back to messages and stuff like that. And sometimes you set boundaries and you let them boundaries slip, but you can always put them back in place. And people need to respect it. It's like a joiner that I follow, Liam. He put a message up 10:30 at night. He said he was sat watching TV. Oh, he's thinking of going to bed, and his phone rang. I've got 2 doors. Can you give us a price for hanging them? I've got all the hangers and everything like that. And this guy thought it was acceptable to ring somebody at 10 o'clock at night.
It's so common. It's so common. I think I think some people still don't realise, as much as some do, and they realise they've got to book you ahead now. Some people think that they can get you at the drop of a hat, and especially when there's money involved, they do think they can snap their fingers and you'll come running. And I think there's always been that side. I've always noticed it with a lot of the customers that I've worked for over the years, and even back when I was working for other building companies and other developers, they seriously think that just because they're paying you, snap of the fingers, and you should be there, cap in hand, ready to do whatever you're told. It's just I don't think there's that in many other industries. I don't think there's that sort of sense of power and ownership, and it's definitely a strange one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, hopefully we can all start coming together and changing it and standing for it, or not standing for it, and set those boundaries up. And it's important to do things like that, and hopefully people start to realise, looking at the tradesmen as well.
Well, you helped me last year, Rob, when I'm talking about this one, when I went down with the lads through COVID and stuff. You messaged me out the blue, and one of the things that you said to me were, just tell people they'll have to wait.
Yeah.
And until someone stands there and says it to you,
yeah,
it sometimes isn't clear, because you feel like you can't upset your customers. You feel like you can't, tell them the way it is or the way it has to be. And I did, and within an hour, I felt instantly better.
Yeah.
And I just messaged a few of them and said, we're going to be a couple of weeks late getting to you, and there's nothing we can do about it. And until people actually turn around and start doing that a bit more, because I'm someone as well, we take deposits up front to secure the bookings and things like that. So I try as best I can to make sure that if you've put your trust in me and given me money before I've showed up, and I say I'm going to be there on the 7th of May or whatever, that on the 7th of May I am there, come rain or shine, do you know what I mean, to start your project, because that's when people start to, lose the faith in the builder and lose the trust and things like that. So I'm always very conscious of making sure that start dates are always met. But, I think people also need to understand that the world isn't what it was.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even now we're coming out of the COVID side of things, and that will become less of an excuse or whatever. But for the last 2 years, you haven't known from day to day whether you're going to have people at work or not. And it only takes someone in your house to be ill for you to not be able to leave until you're clear and tested and all that. And
it's been a massive learning curve for everybody, and it's hopefully, like you just say, we're coming out of the restrictions now, and I don't think you have to isolate it next month now, but it's been the massive pressure that it's put on people and the industry, and people are, like you said, finding out things about themselves that they didn't realise that they had to look after themselves, and putting I know I keep saying it, but boundaries, but it's not a bad boundary. Like I said to you, that those people now know where you stand with it all, and it's one less pressure. And I say to a couple of other people that I talked to, I spoke to an electrician who's got that much work, he keeps saying yes to it, and I say to him, look, he's petrified of losing out on work, because I think we all have that mentality.
We never say no.
Yeah, make hay while the sun shines and all that, and we always think, oh, I need to have all this work in front of me because I might not have it. But I said, with the electrician, I said to him, the people that you're dealing with, I'd rather know that you're not going to be there, and you say to them, I'd really like to do work for you, but at this moment in time I just don't have the capacity to do it, but I can do it in a couple of months' time. I'd love to quote for you for then, if that's all right. And then straight away, they know where you are. You're not putting unnecessary pressure on yourself, and they will bear you in mind for other things, rather than thinking, I'm not going to use Dave because he promises me loads of stuff and he never turns up. And then you just run round and putting ridiculous pressure on yourself, and then it consumes you, and then you don't want to do it, and you run out of motivation. You don't want to go to work. But if we can all start to learn to put little bits in place.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I learned a lot from last year. The rapid expansion that we went through and dealing with all of that side of things, and then I was dealing with 3 times as many customers as I had previously, which, and, I've got 3 times as many lads working for me, the different things that I went through. And this year now, I sort of had a bit of a talk with myself over Christmas. I was like, right, last year was really good in these aspects, but it was also really bad in these. And however great it might have looked on the surface to people, the fact we've trebled in size and all that, and, a couple of vans on the road, and people who look at it on the surface, oh, it must have had a great year. And I looked at it and thought, right, on the surface, it probably did look great, but these are the things that I couldn't do again.
Yeah.
These are the things I won't let happen again.
Yeah.
So I've made sure now that with the workload, I'm only taking on what my team can cover there and then. I'm not putting unnecessary pressure on myself. Even last year, I was subbing stuff out, and you have problems with subbies, as you know, and it's just unnecessary stress.
Yeah.
And if yourself, a subby will never do it as quick as you will. A subby will never do it as quick as one of your team who's told this is your start date and this has got to be when it's done by. And all of a sudden, if you're only making chump change and pennies out of it at the end of it, is it worth it?
Yeah.
It's definitely not. Like,
no.
If you're making less out of it than the hours you put into organising it, then it's just not worth it. Vetting my customers a bit better as well.
Yeah.
Done that this year. I had a woman chasing me for a really big, lucrative job. Didn't like her tone in the initial email. Didn't read well at all to me. Spoke to the architect who did the plans. I said, what do you think of the customer? Went quiet on the phone.
Yeah.
I thought, right, okay. So I had a conversation with her, and within 5 minutes I knew that it wasn't the job for me, despite the fact that it would have been, on the surface, probably the biggest job I'll have taken on to date.
Yeah.
Financially, it would have been the most amount of money I'll have ever made from a single job, and I didn't get a good vibe.
Yeah.
So I walked away from it because I know that there's plenty of work out there, and I don't need to be putting myself in a situation where I can already tell there'd be friction between me and the customer for the way they want to do things compared to the way that I'm happy to do them.
Yeah, there's a great lesson there that people can be sucked in by, I can do this job, and it could be £500,000, say, to do a big one-off thing for somebody. It's great having that £500,000, but what have you got to sacrifice to get that? And I remember, because I used to work on big commercial sites, and I was sat talking to, it was a groundworking contractor, and this one particular job in Stockport, they wanted him to pour the concrete slabs. And I was sat in a meeting for something else, and that topic got brought up, and the client that they were doing it for put humongous pressure on him to do these concrete slabs. And he's like, no, I don't want to overstretch myself. And he turned around to me after the meeting and he said, would you risk 350 grand to earn 3 grand? I was like, absolutely not. He says, that's what they want me to do. It looks great that I've poured all these big massive slabs, but I've got to put so much into this to get, you get a reward out of it, but it's not a massive reward. So why do I need to put that extra
risk
pressure
versus reward, isn't it? And
exactly.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. So, yeah, I like to think that, last year, great year on the surface, great year, and I'm really, really happy that I went through what I went through last year, so that I can become a better version of me, so that the business can be a better version of what it is, and that going forward we'll go from strength to strength and never take a backward step.
Yeah, they're constantly learning, constantly evolving, and it's really, really good that you recognise it and not make the same mistakes again and get sucked into it. Because we all want businesses to succeed, and I want to stand in the background and watch people succeed, but at the same time I don't want them to sacrifice family time. I don't want them to sacrifice the marriage and the relationships and life, because it's great having loads of money and 50 vans on the road and all that, but when you're a miserable, lonely person, and I'm not saying that's what you get.
No, but I've got 2 young kids.
Yeah.
I've got 2 young kids. I didn't spend enough time with them last year. I was working 6 days a week on the tools, Sundays doing paperwork. So what time was I spending with my family? Do you know what I mean? Very, very little. Yeah. And as understanding as my wife was and so on, because she realises that I'm trying to grow the business. There were also times when she said, the kids won't recognise you.
Yeah.
And that to me, I can't have.
Yeah. I can't
have. I need to make sure I put those kids to bed every night.
Yeah.
They go to bed at 7. Do Do you know what I mean? I need to make sure that I put those kids to bed every night. You know, I get into bed and read my son a book in bed every night, and it's the highlight of my whole day.
Yeah. It's
because they're not up when I go to work.
Yeah.
So if I'm working past 7:00 and not getting home, then I've literally gone a day without seeing my children.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's a crazy position to put yourself in for what, like?
Yeah.
Because you don't get the appreciation for it.
No.
And money wise, you definitely don't see the value of missing a day with your kids.
Yeah.
I know that.
I value time more than money now. That was one of the key factors for me for walking away. I've left a really great, secure job, paid really well, great company to work for, but I was never there. I was doing, like I was speaking to Claire here before, I was doing 4,000 miles a month up and down the country and working all the hours, and that was the world, because I thought that's what you had to do to be successful, but in reality it's not. To be successful is, your version of successful could be different to my version of successful. But I think when you speak to a lot of people, like especially people that run these bigger businesses, they would love to get that time back with the kids. The kids are 18, 20, whatever, and they've left and gone to university, and they think, shit, yeah, I've got a bit of pounds in the bank, but I've missed out on all this. And hopefully people can realise that you can be successful and you can have a bit of money, but you can get there at a certain rate. And I think, like you saying that you expanded massively, like when we were speaking just before we started, your 5-year plan happened in a year.
Yeah.
And it can get too much sometimes. But now you learn from it. You're moving forward. You're putting the boundaries in place. You're putting a lifestyle in place that you want, and it's amazing to hear, and it's so good to hear. It really, really is. And hopefully, people listening to this podcast can go, shit, that's me. I had that year last year, and I need to realise and take a step back and look from the outside in to say that life's pretty good. Let's pay attention a bit more to it.
100%.
So, what's the next big move then for Elwood?
The next big move isn't a big move. It's like I said to you, so it's about making this year really successful with what we've got and the size that we are.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really concentrating on, is making sure where we are is the right place, and what we're doing is making, good money, making my life easier, less stressful. I weren't on the tools last Saturday.
Yeah.
Which meant that I could do a bit of paperwork on a Saturday, which meant that I had a whole Sunday with my kids.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it, and that is definitely the plan now, to make sure I manage schedules better, manage the jobs better, and don't be afraid to say to people, if it's going to be a week late, it's going to be a week late.
Yeah.
Because telling them it's going to be a week late, or me having to work a week of nights and a Saturday and not spending time with my children, it just isn't worth it. And is that week going to affect them massively?
Yeah.
Is it really, in the grand scheme? If you've had a 12-week job going on and it takes 13 weeks, tough shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of them. I try and make sure my schedule is really organised. I do everything, all my big jobs, I plan them week by week. By the end of week 1, it's got to be here. End of week 2, it's got to be here. This leads on to that. Week 3, week 4, and I can literally show the customer at the start of the job, like I did on this last one, where we're going to be at the end of each stage.
Yeah.
And I think if I can run things that efficiently, with additional stress to me, then that's definitely got to be the way that I move forward with the business.
Do you think, like, it's not really off piste a bit really, but when we're in college doing apprenticeships, do you think they should teach a bit of business skill?
I wish that there was some way, or whether, I hear a lot about these, these online business coaches and people to teach you how to run your business, and I've also heard a lot of negative things about them, and people saying that it's a waste of money. A good mutual friend of ours, I'm sure we know who we're talking about. He spent money on one of these things and said it was the biggest waste of time that he'd ever had, and the best thing he did was putting someone in place in his business who was experienced with the business side of things, to leave them to do what they're good at, and he carry on doing what he's good at.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a wise business model.
Yeah.
Because we can't all be good at everything.
No, you can't.
You can't be great on the tools and brilliant sat in front of a computer.
Yeah.
Right? Because people's brains don't work like that. I don't know many people who are practically minded and then, able to apply themselves to screen time and
Yeah.
bookkeeping and things like that. I think people's brains are made up differently.
Yeah, they are.
And we're doing what we do because we're practically minded.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able to find what you're good at, see what you're not good at, and then put a process in place to take that side of things away from what you actually have to spend your time on, which is something I'm looking at the moment. With hopefully my accountants aren't listening, but I definitely pay them too much money at the moment for not enough work.
Yeah.
So I am looking at bringing someone else into the business who can do probably what I pay them for, that we still have to do at home, me and my wife anyway.
Yeah.
We're doing 90% of the legwork for them to do a bit of updating on spreadsheets, and I'm paying them a lot of money to do that, and I don't think I'm getting value for money at the moment. Yeah. So I might as well put that money into someone who can do it, can take all the stress of that away. And that's one less thing that I have to think about.
Yeah.
So,
and it allows you to think of all the other things that you've got going on in your head. And for me, definitely when I started putting myself first and checking in with my mental health more, it freed me up. So when I was laying bricks or doing whatever I'm doing, that's when my mind becomes more active and I can think, oh, right, well, I need to do this, this and this. And you feel like you're being productive all the time. And it's just, I keep talking about circles, but it really is like if you look after yourself, you feed yourself well, put the right fuel inside you, and it allows you to think a lot clearer, and you become a lot more productive, a lot more successful, and life doesn't become easier, but it becomes more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I think people are now starting to get the realisation that I need to pay a bit more attention to this to be where I want to be in life. This is one of the things that I need to look after.
Yeah, definitely. There's wise words in that. You need to make sure that you are ultimately happy in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, why would you do it?
Yeah.
I mean, the whole reason I wanted to work for myself is because I never want to feel like when I get up in the morning, oh shit, I've got to go to work.
Yeah.
And I'd say up until the stresses of the growth last year, in 6 years of working for myself, even when I took on 2 people and we were going really well, but we were one job at a time, there wasn't a day when I woke up and thought, oh, I've got to go to work today.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I love working for myself.
Yeah.
I love being in charge of my own destiny and having that freedom to say, yeah, I'll do your job, but don't really want to do yours. Or, no, I really hate doing guttering and fascia, so I won't be doing that. But yeah, I think until last year, I'd managed to make sure that I was always happy going to work.
Yeah.
And it was only through the additional stresses last year that I had days where I woke up in the morning and thought, I'll have another 15 minutes. I don't quite want to get up yet. I'm not jumping out of bed. And that's a big lesson that I need to learn. I'm making sure that I'm still smiling when I wake up in the morning and have my coffee and get out in the morning and I'm ready to go and face the day that I want to face.
Yeah. It's great to hear, mate.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that brings us to a close. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to come over here.
Pleasure.
Thank you for all the support you give us as well. I couldn't really do what I do now without the help of people like yourself, getting that message out there and letting people know that it is okay to ask for a bit of help. So thank you very much.
No, and thank you. I think you're a top bloke, Rob, and you know that, and you reached out of the blue to me when we didn't really know each other last year, because you saw that I needed someone to talk to.
Yeah.
And I think, I've said it to you before, the world needs more Robs.
Hopefully. I think my wife will disagree with that. But hopefully we can start building people up to do things like this. And I guess I haven't actually got producer Tom here with me today. He's not here on this one, so I'll have to wrap it up without him taking the piss out of me. But thank you to everybody that's watched this episode and listened to this episode. And if you haven't watched it, head over to our YouTube channel and have a look. We're now starting to upload them quite regular up there when I pull my finger out and do it. But make sure you look after yourself, be kind, check in with your mates, and set those boundaries to work on your terms. And I will speak to you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.